Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Drea.
And today we're, for the third time, going to be talking about relationships. And by third time, I mean we've recorded this 3 times, but have encountered hiccups along the way that has been postponing this particular episode.
Yes.
But yeah, we're talking about our past crushes, relationships, what we've learned from all that stuff, and, you know, how we're growing from it as adults.
Yeah, and so this podcast will be kind of just like trickled with fun anecdotes and also kind of sad anecdotes. But I hope you guys enjoy it. It's quite interesting, I would say. I mean, if we were able to record this 3 times without entirely jumping off a ledge, I think it's a little bit interesting.
Yeah, sure. It has some value to it, definitely.
Yeah, so take a listen, enjoy it, and let us know what you think. So, Alex.
Yes.
How would you define a relationship?
I'd like to point out here to all you people listening to Drea clinking that spoon that this is the 3rd time we've recorded this, and we probably have mentioned this in the intro. This is our 3rd time recording this particular episode because we've been such failures with the audio. So that's what that sigh was about. It's not my opinion about relationships.
You know what I feel? It's like the universe does not want us to talk about like our past relationships.
Apparently
They're just like,
not.
get over it, don't think about it. And we're just like, no, we need to.
We've gone through an evolution of how we talked about it, really. Like, from beginning to end, it's been pretty interesting. So we'll see what comes out this particular time.
Hopefully it's something good. I feel like the first time we talked about it, it was more, not so much negative, but like a little bit like bagging on people.
Slightly. I mean, yes and no. I think it was more of a cynical view, and the next time was an overly hopeful view, and now this time will probably be just a normalized view.
Let's see what happens. But okay, let's go into definitions of relationships.
Circling back, me defining a relationship to me is like monogamous, committed, barriers defined relationship. Mostly because I didn't mention this early enough in the second time that we recorded it, but I feel like it's a perfect time to bring it up in the beginning now. That when I started dating around 15, like officially dating at 15, I was told by my parents, you should think of relationships as thus, that don't date unless you could see yourself marrying them. Like that they have that kind of potential, which, you know, when I heard that at 15 was a lot. And it was a lot for most, I feel like, of my teenage years and my early 20s. I mean, I understand the reason why that they say that, because, you know, you want to save yourself as much heartbreak as you can.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And also save the heartbreak of others.
Yeah, like, if you know it's not going to work, let's not fool around here. Let's just be like, hey, it's not going to work.
Yeah, which is a pretty adult way of thinking about it.
It is.
So I, like, really give you props for taking the advice of, like, adults who have lived a life and can see things, like, more clearly and take it, like, as a young child.
Yes. There is that, but we're also going to see throughout, you know, this podcast, I didn't necessarily strictly adhere to that advice, even though I should have. But I did eventually.
True.
In each of those relationships, I did eventually be like, okay, there's not that potential there. I'm going to leave.
Right.
But, so yeah, that was my whole thing. How do you define this?
For me, it's a little bit different. Yes, in the sense of, like, committed relationships, like boyfriend, girlfriend, I agree. It should be monogamous. It should be exclusive, whatever. But, like, I feel like the term relationship is more broad. Like, so for me, it's like whenever 2 people have mutual feelings for each other and that those feelings are known and, like, you know, whether they're talking, they're dating, they're exclusively dating, whatever they're doing, I feel like it's some form of a relationship. So for me, relationship is more of like an umbrella term.
Yeah. And thinking about it through that lens, I could understand that stance.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I mean, whatever. Those are our definitions.
Yes.
So going off of that, let's talk about, in my view, our past relationships, and in Alex's view, just people. Okay. So beginning with our first crushes.
By the way, disclaimer, we're going to be using a lot of naming of Matts here.
Right. Okay, yeah. I forgot. Being the 3rd time, I forgot that we have to disclose that. Yeah, so we decided, because in my life, I don't know why. I guess my type would be defined as having the name Matthew. Because I've dated so many or I've had some sort of relationship with so many Matts that we universally decided that every single person we're going to refer to today is going to be some derivative of the name Matt.
To protect identities here.
Right, because no one will know who it really is. Okay, so going off of that, Alex, who was your first crush and when?
First crush, kindergarten.
Starting early.
Starting very early. Although, what do you really define as a crush back then? I guess I thought he was cute.
Mm-hmm. Which is really an interesting thought to me.
I know.
Like, as a kindergartner, like, what constitutes, like, cute? Like, what constitutes attraction?
I really have no idea.
It's such a bizarre concept when you really think about it.
Yeah. I wasn't friends with him at all. Mm-hmm. I didn't really, from what I remember, talk to him, if at all. Mm-hmm. I saw him a couple of years later at the dentist office once, and he was less cute then.
Oh. Naturally, as it happens.
That was really that. That was my first crush.
For sure. I didn't talk about this in the other two versions of this podcast we filmed.
Information right here, ma'am.
So here's going to be actual legit responses from you and reactions.
Okay.
But just piggybacking off of that topic that we just talked about, like what constitutes a crush in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. I did have a crush in kindergarten. It was this boy who, and it's so interesting to me because maybe this answers our prior question, because I remember I was at recess and there was like these wagons or something, and I was like pulling wagon for whatever reason. I don't even know what happened, but I remember at some point of me pulling this wagon, he like came up to me. He's like, "Hey, can I sit in your wagon?" No innuendo at all. We were kindergarten.
Well,
but like,
not, yeah.
but saying this now just feels weird. Okay. But anyways, he was like, "Can I sit in your wagon?" And I was just like, "Okay." So then I was like pulling him around like the playground, whatever, in this wagon, and we were like making up this like pretend story that like he was, I don't know, like I was a taxi driver and he was like on his way to I don't know what. Yeah. But we were like having so much fun. And then after that I was just like, I like that boy. And so I feel like maybe it was just like, maybe at like a young age you're confusing like friendship with crushes. At least maybe in my situation.
In your situation, because I already said I wasn't friends with them. I really wasn't. Mm-hmm. I have no way to account for this. Which, by the way, just thinking about it a little bit more, like, where at that age? Because then I was about 5. Mm-hmm. Where are you picking up
liking people? Probably movies. Like Lion King, Simba, and Nala.
Maybe. I guess.
Maybe? I don't know. Someone chime in.
Okay. Because that's really weird to think about, actually.
Yeah, it's maybe we should do a whole podcast on that, but
no.
Okay, so my first legitimate crush after that, because I don't know if I really count that, but I remember like being like, I like that boy, and then he moved away like that same year. But anyways, yeah, and so when I was in 3rd grade, there was this boy who was in my class who I really had no business talking to, hanging out with, because we had nothing in common aside from the fact that we both played soccer for ASO, but everyone played soccer for ASO. So was that really something in common? I don't know. But I had a crush on this boy, and it was like weird. It was like a daunting crush that like followed me into middle school, and he like absolutely wanted nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. Also giving him some like, giving him a little bit of credit. I was a nasty little kid. Like I was not cute. I really grew into myself as I grew up. I'm not, I'm not a beauty queen now, but I'm okay. Yeah. I'm passable, like whatever. But when I was young,
I think that we'd say that about, all of ourselves when we were younger.
No.
Because I could say that too. I'm just like, I was a little boy.
No. But see, here's the difference. Because I can look at my sister's pictures, I can look at my friends' pictures, and everyone had just that awkward adolescence that you're just like, ooh, like not that cute. I was gross. Like, I was just nasty looking. I don't know. Like, I looked like I was a homeless kid. For whatever. Like, I grew up in an affluent family, but I looked like a homeless kid. Like a homeless, emaciated little Mexican girl selling gum on the side of the road.
Yikes.
That's what I looked like. It wasn't cute. And, like, I don't know why, because it's so unfair. Because all of our pictures growing up, me and my sister, it's like Danielle's super cute. Well, she's cute. And, like, I'm just in the background, like, rah. And I wasn't doing myself any favors either, because I I mean, as I am now, I'm very expressionate with my face.
Yeah.
And so in all these little kid pictures, I'm like doing something crazy in the background of my face, like, you know, like all this weird, I don't even know what. So it just, okay, we really took a tangent, but that was me spilling my sad childhood to you for 2 minutes. Anyways, push forward, Alex.
Moving on to the next most, I guess, relevant crushes / boyfriend things that we had was in middle school. For me, the first Matt, I suppose. I never dated him in any kind of official capacity.
Okay.
Because I was in 6th grade. I was 12 years old.
In middle school. So it was like middle school dating, whatever that means.
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing is that we met because we rode on the same bus to school. I don't know how we started talking to each other. I don't know how the crush thing started, but supposedly it was mutual.
Got it.
And so the natural thing for me to do at that point, because it's how I was raised to be, was be like, hey, mom and dad, can I date this person? Which, of course, they were like, nah, you for sure may not.
Yeah.
And which I was very, bummed out about at the time, because why wouldn't I be, I suppose? But I'm just kind of like the thought of dating someone as a 12-year-old. Like, what does that even mean? It's so silly.
I don't know.
But anyway, and then it ended up being that I got, like, I guess my heart broken by him because he ended up, quote unquote, dating another girl in my grade. Like, I thought that he liked me, and then I come to hear later that he had, like, kissed another girl on a different bus.
Okay.
Which is really, like, it's hilarious to think about now, because I'm just kind of like, why?
Just
Why
all
is
this
such a big
bus
deal?
drama.
I know. It really was. All this stuff having to do with the bus. But anyway, so it was actually ended up being weird because him and I ended up, like, talking on and off for, like, 8 years. So that was, like, a pretty significant chapter of my life.
Right.
We never dated, actually, like, in the meanwhile. And
But somehow he was just intertwined with your life.
yeah, because, like, for all this time, he couldn't decide whether or not he liked me.
Isn't that interesting how, like, as we were saying, like, what really constitutes a crush at these early ages, but then, like, whatever that was, it sparked some sort of, like, in my terms, relationship for 8 years.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. And, I mean, now he's engaged. Like, I'm happy for him. Like, great for him.
Right.
Like, he's happy. That's awesome. But yeah, that's it for him.
How interesting. Well, for me, my first crush in middle school, I'm going to call him Sabotage Matt. Nothing against him, but, like, the story that this, like, little anecdote I'm about to share is pretty savage. So yeah, there was this boy who was new to the school in 6th grade, and I sat next to him in my English class, and it was, like, weird. Like, we didn't talk to each other, and then all of a sudden one week we just, like, from, like, Wednesday to Friday, it was nonstop. We were, like, teasing each other, like, talking, whatever, passing notes. I don't know. And so then on that Friday, because we had, like, a school dance coming up the next week, and on that Friday, he, like, gave me a note, and he was just like, hey, do you want to go to, like, the dance with me? And I was just like, oh, my God, like, I love this guy. And so I was like, yeah. So that whole weekend, I went home, and I was just, like, super love-struck, like, couldn't eat anything. I had so many butterflies in my stomach, just, like, infatuated with this person.
Yeah.
And come Monday, he has not talked to me, like, all day. And then at, like, lunch or something, I'm standing in a group of girls, like, we're just talking or something, and one of his friends comes up to our group, and he turns to the girl right next to me, and he goes, hey, like, so-and-so, whatever her name was, he's like, hey, so-and-so, like, do you want to go to the dance with, like, I forgot what I called him, like, Sabotage Matt. He's like, hey, do you want to go to the dance with Sabotage Matt? And he's just like, yeah, if you say yeah, he'll, like, dump Andrea or something like that. And I was, like, dumbfounded. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was just, like, standing there next to him, and, like, the girl was, like, also just, like, mortified because she's, how awkward is that? And then, like, the guy, I guess, just barely realized, but, like, in all this silence, that I was, like, standing right next to her, and he was just like, gotta go. And then, so he leaves, and it was so awkward, like, in the group after that, like, we were all just like,
well, yeah, what really is there to say after that?
Right? And it was,
sorry,
oh my
bro.
gosh. And yeah, and it's like, we weren't even like adults to, like, be able to, like, I feel like now if something like that would have happened, people, like, we would react like wholeheartedly, like, be like, what the heck, you know, like, you know, kind of deal, like, pump the other person up.
Yeah, for sure.
But, like, as children, you're just like, you know, like, what do you do? So it was just one of the most mortifying moments of my entire life, followed by me finding out from Sabotage Matt himself. He comes up to me and he's just like, hey, like, we should not go to the dance together, like, you smell. And he was just, like, bagging on me for, like, being a 6th grader and, like, I don't know, not using deodorant or something, which, I mean, probably. Like, I probably stunk when I was in middle school. But everyone else did, too. So it was just so mean. And, yeah, so that was, like, my first kind of interaction with heartbreak. And I feel like it wasn't so much heartbreak, but it was more like my first interaction with, like, stomping on my self-esteem.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, so my entry into middle school is not ideal, as one would put it. Also, I got a really terrible haircut shortly thereafter, and it made me, like, 10 times uglier than I already was dealing with.
Breakup haircut? Lost.
I don't know. You know what? I think my mom, like, forced me to get a haircut. And, like, my aunt did it, and, like, no shade to my aunt, but, like, it was terrible. It was so bad.
You know, it's really funny because I was trying to make a joke right there, and then it really just went super deep. Like, the reason behind the haircut. Like, I was just making a joke about breakup haircuts because that's a thing. Yeah. Like, that's, like... You know,
yeah. You know, funny you say that because I just saw a meme, like, yesterday that was just, like, I don't know who needs to hear this or, like, who's going through a breakup, but don't touch your hair.
See? I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's a thing. Definitely. I cut my hair off when I went through, like, my big major breakup.
Yes.
Anyways, yeah, so that was my first crush in middle school. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
First real crushes.
First real crushes.
I think.
Yeah, and then, like, shortly thereafter, just really quick, because this is a really short one, but I don't know what was wrong with me because I feel like... Okay, we're actually going into some topics that we didn't talk about in past podcasts here.
Exciting.
So this is exciting. So my philosophy growing up, like I told you, I didn't have, like, the greatest self-worth, like, you know, whatever, because I was just such a fugly little kid. But, like, you know, and I was self-aware of that.
Yeah.
So growing up, like, in late middle school, high school, like, my taste in guys kind of, like, leveled itself up with what I thought of myself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, anyone that I found, like, very attractive, I would, like, shut it down. I would not let myself have a crush on them.
You know, that's probably the wiser way to, I guess, do that. I mean, not saying that that was necessarily the right, because you are a really attractive person, so it's not like that's,
maybe.
You know, out of your league. However, you know, I probably should have done the same thing, not have crushes on really cute guys. Now, more so, I'm just kind of like, nah. This is not in my wheelhouse. This is, you just assume, I think now, dating, like, or trying to date, like, a hot guy, you're just like, nah, I don't want this in my life.
It's just trouble, right. But that was my mentality at, like, a young age. And I feel like no, not really. It kind of stayed with me. But anyways, but before that happened, the reason I think that happened was because in 6th grade also, I developed this crush on this kid who I'm going to call him Emo Matt because he was, like, that little emo kid, whatever. Yeah. And he was, like, the school cutie. Like, he was so cute. Like, even to this day, like, I was like, he was cute. And, like, my sister, he had, like, a brother in an older grade. And my sister had a crush on his brother. And just, like, that family was just attractive.
Yeah.
And so I had a crush on this kid. And, like, I was so neurotic and so crazy. And, like... I don't know why I would do this, but I had his AIM, like his AIM username, and I'd put an alarm on his name when, like, he would log on, it would, like, go off and, like, alert me, and I would, like, from the second he logged on, like, I was bombarding this guy's, like, messaging board. Like, I was just like, hey, how are you? Like, blah, 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 like, talk to me about this. Like, and we weren't friends in real life. Like, he didn't talk to me in real life. So, like, he was just literally just, like, pacifying a sad kid. And I feel so bad for him, but also very grateful to him for not being a jerk and being like, dude, back up. I'm not interested in you. But then I kind of, like, got the hint later because he, like, started dating, like, one of the cutest girls in our school. And I'm just like, yeah, like, that's not me. So then I think that's what spurred, like, my whole, like, mentality of, like, Dre, you can't get these kids. Stop trying.
I mean, at least... I would say at least, yes, he was nice. That it does say a lot for his character, I think.
Yeah.
That he just kind of like, ew, what are you? Get away from me.
No, he was actually very nice. Like, he would talk to me. We had, like, full-on conversations to the extent where people would think we're friends if they just read our, like, messages. But, like, we weren't. Like, not at all in person.
So, moving on a little bit towards high school now. So, my first significant whatever in high school was actually my first technically boyfriend.
Okay.
And the thing is that he was actually kind of a carryover from middle school. We met in band in middle school.
So cute.
He played the trumpet and I played the clarinet.
Oh my gosh.
Super
a bunch
cute,
of
right?
musical lovers.
Anyway, and for honest to goodness, I have no idea how we started talking to each other. Like, I had kind of had a crush on him in middle school a little bit towards the end. And like, I remember once, like, running around with my friends, and one of my friends was, like, dragging me by the arm, and we were going around a corner, and he was there, and I remember punching him in the shoulder, because that's, you know, like, how kids, like...
It just seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
It seemed like the right thing to do. Like, oh, I had a crush on him, let me punch him in the shoulder like a psycho. Anyway, but I guess it worked, because somehow I ended up getting his number.
Okay.
I could not tell you how. I think it was, like, towards the end of band. I don't know, because my friends at the time, like you are now, because sidebar, her life ambition is to set me up. We'll talk about that later, because it definitely comes back into play later. But anyway, so yeah, like, my friends were a little bit conniving, so maybe they helped out, like, they gave an assistant that way, because all my friends were in band as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes.
That's so cute.
We were those people.
Okay.
Anyway, so I ended up getting his number, and then somehow we ended up talking, because I don't know how... Because for whatever reason, like, we were set, like, he went into high school when I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
So I don't know how we reconnected, but we were reconnected in high school. And so we ended up, like, dating. It was my first parent-approved relationship. Because I was 15, and at that point, my parents thought, okay, she can date now if she wants to, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it lasted all of 1 week. And... he was really nice. He really was. And it was around Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So he had gotten me, like, stuff for Valentine's Day. Like, he got me a bouquet of roses, and he got me some, like, my favorite chocolates and whatever. And it was really funny because between, like, we had, like, a period where we passed each other, like, between classes. Like, a passing period. Like, we walked right by each other every day. And before he'd given me any of the stuff, like, he gave me a rose. Like, just a single rose.
How romantic.
It was really cute. Wow. And I really liked it. Like, that was a good move.
I wonder where this boy is now, and, like, how is he treating his woman?
I really wonder where he is now, too, because I'd really like to apologize. But anyway, we're going to get there.
That's a different topic.
It's a different thing. So I go into the art room because that was my next class. And I was actually with one of his friends, and we sat at the same table. So I sit down with this rose, and his friend's just like, huh, my friend had a rose just like that.
Not putting two and two together.
Get that from? I was like, oh, you know, I just got it.
Just leaving it open-ended.
Yeah, so...
That's so funny.
Yeah, because his friends obviously didn't know about me.
Yeah.
And we dated, quote-unquote dated, for such a short amount of time because I ended up text dumping him. I was the worst.
No.
I was the worst.
That's so sad. And he was just being so cute and romantic.
Yeah, but the thing is that we never hung out actually together at school. Like, it was always, like, what I guess freaked me out was because the real point of it was that I wasn't mature enough to be in that kind of situation yet.
For sure.
I just wasn't.
Yeah. And he just happened to get the brunt of it.
Yeah. So I was like, I'd hang out with my friends and like I'd know like he would be around.
Yeah.
Like not talking to me, not coming up to me or anything, but I'd see him somewhere in the peripheral always. So that kind of freaked me out. Because like he wouldn't just come up and talk to me.
Yeah.
Like our worlds didn't collide in that way, I guess. So that like got me freaked out enough that I just text dumped him. And, like, he had called me, and I just sent his call to voicemail.
Oh, gosh. Poor guy.
This is the worst. But, I mean, it's actually kind of funny, because I don't think I mentioned this either the first couple times that we did this, but me and him actually ended up talking a couple times in the subsequent years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
About what?
Like, we ended up talking.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you never, like, apologized or anything?
Probably not.
Oh, no.
I know. Missed opportunity. Because, like, I was just telling her the other day, I'm just like, I really wish I could get back into contact with them to be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, like, realizing what you did now. It's just like, ugh.
Because I know any guy that I've broken up with, which has been, you know, a couple, like, the majority of my boyfriends, like, I've broken up with them. It's all been over text, but that was all unintentional after this first one.
Okay, we'll get to it.
So, yeah. That was my first real Matt. I'm so sorry if you know who you are and you're hearing this, which you would not. But anyway, I'm so sorry.
You never know. Okay, well, trying to follow that. In high school, let me think. I was in geometry for freshman year. And as I mentioned to Alex prior, I really should not have been in geometry my freshman year. I should have been in algebra 2. But the way it worked out was that, like, I bombed it my 6th grade year in school. Like, I just did terrible in school. So then the following year, they put me in pre-algebra. But that entire year, I did not learn one iota of information because our teacher was brand new and was terrible and literally just, like, let us come to class, and we did not do a single thing all year long. Like, literally, he got fired that same year. Like, it was really bad. Mr. Lee, I really hope teaching worked out for you. But yeah, it was really bad. So, like, I went straight into algebra without any pre-algebra, like, prep. So honestly, I should have just done algebra in 7th grade because it would have been the same thing. I was just pushed back a year. But anyways, that being said, so I was pushed back a year, so I was already a year behind. And then when I got into this class, there was a boy who sat in front of me who was a grade older, and he was in geometry, so he was, like, double behind. So, like, our intellectual level was, like, not at the same point, if that makes sense. And I should have really, like, paid attention to that, but, you know, I didn't. And just one day, like, he was, like, this punk rock kid, like, wore, like, cut-off flannels, like, had crazy hair. And he was, like, cute, whatever, but I didn't pay any attention to him until one day he, like, literally randomly, out of the blue, just turns around in his seat and just starts having, like, a full-on conversation with me. Like, we were best friends. Like, he was just like, so this weekend I did this, and and I was listening to this music, and what did you do? And I'm just like, okay. And it was just so out of nowhere and took me so off guard that it, like, made me, like, attracted to him, because I was just like, whoa, this person is, like, wild. And he actually, like, gave me, like, some music recommendations that have, like, lasted to this day. Like, I really love some of the people that he recommended to me. Like, I still love them. So that really came out of it, like, benefiting. But fast forward, like, a year, I saw him, because, like, I was trying to, like, I don't even remember exactly the extent of how I was trying to, like, date him. But a year later, I saw him, like, walking down, like, the stairs, and I was like, hey, like, punk Matt, like, you know, like, how are you doing, whatever. And he was like, good, like, what this is this. And I forget how I got here, but I said something about, like, just text me, and he's like, oh, I don't have your number. And I was like, oh, let me give it to you. And, like, literally, he, like, and I feel like this is a theme with me. Guys try to let me down softly, which I appreciate, but I should have taken a hint, like, early on. Because, like, I was, like, trying to give him my number, and he was like, oh, okay, and he, like, pulled out his phone, and literally, like, there was no possible way he could have, like, pulled up any sort of, like, contacts or, like, his phone number, like, the phone, like, numbers, whatever, the keyboard, in time. But he was just like, yeah, give it to me. And I was just like, 66, 64. And it was also so loud around us, like, I couldn't even hear myself. So, like, there's no way he was actually taking down my number. And he was like, okay, cool, like, I'll talk to you later. And then he, like, left and, like, booked it. And I was just like, okay. And, like, now looking back, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this poor guy just wanted to get away from me. And I wouldn't let him. God, I just want to go back in time sometimes and just, like, slap my younger self a few times.
Well, if you're not, like...
I wasn't with it. Like, I wasn't with it.
You wouldn't necessarily realize that he's brushing you off.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I feel like that happens to everyone. Like, you don't realize until much later that, oh my goodness, that person really just was not
interested. Yeah, it's horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first, like, kind of significant crush in high school. Aside from that, I just had boyfriends mainly, which we'll talk about after we cover all the crushes.
I mean, for me, I guess after that, I had like a couple crushes in high school. None of them really. They were all a story of unrequited feelings.
Yeah.
That just never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Which I'm just kind of like, is fine, really.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like...
None of them were really noteworthy, because the only noteworthy thing I had thereafter in high school was my next boyfriend.
Right. Yeah. That's my point. It's just, like, high school is such a weird time. Because, yeah, like, I had a few people that I found cute or whatever, but it was, like, literally nothing significant to, like, stay in my...
Yeah.
Whatever.
And another thing to remember about my high school situation is that I went to a private school.
Small pool.
Very small pool. I had been a lifer there, so I knew everyone. So I'm just kind of like, there are not a lot of options before me, and after you've already like mentally exhausted all those options, like evaluating them and just like, what do you really do after that?
You know what's interesting about that is that like I've actually thought about that, and it's funny that you're mentioning how you kind of like grew up with all these people, like it's been the same people since like childhood.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that growing up because I felt like I couldn't date anyone who went to school with me in elementary school, because like obviously there was a ton of people who like went through the same like schools that I did to get to high school.
Sure.
But I felt like I never once had a thing, was interested in, had anyone interested in me or like anything from elementary school. And I felt like I attributed it to the fact that like they knew me when I was super nasty looking. And so like I remember thinking that and being like, oh, I'm so glad that like, you know, at least like in a public school, a lot of different people like from different schools like come in, because I would have like zero in like love life. Well, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Relationships.
I mean, there definitely is a point in that, because the only guys that I'd consider thereafter were guys who were new that year or whatever. And after you evaluate for like however long you do that, like, you know, the 5 minutes that you allocate to that, you're just like, well, whatever.
That's funny.
Because, I mean, going to a, private Christian school all the way, like guys who came in high school, well, anyone who came really in high school, the percentage was majorly people who are just kind of like, their parents had enough of them. Let's straighten these kids out.
I see.
Send them to a Christian school.
So not necessarily the people you want to be getting, cozy with.
Yes.
Got it. Anyways, okay, so let's fast forward to college crushes, which is an interesting topic, I feel, for us.
Yeah. Because this is where we start not sharing things, because that's not true at all.
Oh, God.
But
things start getting intertwined.
Yes. Our stories start becoming a little bit more intertwined that way.
Yeah. So just starting with solely crushes. My first crush going into college was straight out of high school, and it was Washington Matt, as I like to call him. He was this guy that lived up in Washington, and really cool, pretty hippie dude. And it was so funny because I met him online, and we had been Skype dating for like a while, and he was really cool. And I remember thinking like, because I don't even remember how he decided he was going to come down to visit me, but it like got established. And I was so nervous because I was just like, this guy's going to come down. He's so cool. He was much older than me. He was like 5 years older than me. And I was like...
Was he really?
Yeah. Oh, and so like, I was so nervous because I was just like, he's going to come down, get to know like stupid me, and like be like, why did I waste money on a plane ticket? And like, this is such just a waste of my life. And he was like super cute from what I like felt like in, I only saw him in Skype and like video. And he was super cute, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy's not going to be interested in me. And he comes down to visit me, and it was so weird. It was odd because, I mean, it's one thing to date someone online, and then another thing to date them in person.
Yeah.
And so when we, like, met up in person, it was like everything flipped. And for me, I was just like, oh, like, I don't think I could do it. Like, we just had too many differences. He was an amazing person. He still is an amazing person. But we just had too many differences, and I feel like he... maybe liked those differences, and so he was very much like into it. Like he was just like already telling me like, oh, like I can plan out, maybe I can get like into a school down here and like come down here. Aww. And like, it was very romantic. It was very sweet, and he like, he was amazing. He was a great person, but I couldn't do it. And I realized that I couldn't do it like day 2 into him being here, and he was here for like a whole week and staying with me. Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, like, I was living with you at the time. So, like, I remember him being there, but I don't remember it for being for that long.
He was really, one thing about him, he was very much, like, not imposing on other people's space.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Whenever I was in class or something, he wouldn't stay in the dorm. Like, he'd be like, I'll walk around. Like, don't worry, I don't want to bother anyone. Like, he was very, very considerate.
Maybe that's it then. Because I'm just like, I really don't have a lot of memory. Like, I remember him. Like, I remember him being all right. I remember him being a little weird.
I mean, he was, like, quirky, but I think it just kind of attributes to the fact that he was just very hippie. Like, he was straight up a hippie. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, I mean, for you and me, it's just a very different lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, one of the main reasons that I was just like, I don't know if I could do it kind of deal. And like I said, like, he was a fantastic person, super considerate, super sweet, super romantic, like, super nice, but it wasn't going to work. Yeah. And I found that out day 2 of him being there for a week. And it was so, and I kind of like on day 4, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot because this guy has, like, come down here for me, has, like, put all this stuff aside for me and is, like, doing this. Like, I, you know, should give him at least a shot, you know, kind of deal. So I kind of was, like, forcing myself to continue my feelings for him for that week.
Yeah.
But then, like, as soon as he left, I was just like, no, like, I can't. Like, I'm not interested. And it was, like, a little bit heartbreaking for him, I feel like. I did tell him while he was there, I did tell him at some point, like, in person that, like, I don't know if I'm feeling the same way. And I remember his eyes tearing up, and I was just like, I want to kill myself. Like, I'm literally the worst person in the entire world. Ooh. It was bad. It was so bad. And that was probably, like, one of the hardest, like, end of, like, a crush kind of situation. Because, like, this guy didn't deserve it. Like, he was fantastic. He was a great person. He didn't deserve it. And just for whatever reason, like, you know, you can't control your emotions. Like, to this day, like, I wish I could have liked him, but it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, especially since he came all the way down.
I know.
I'm so sorry, Washington man.
I'm so sorry. You know who you are. If you're listening to this, you know who you are, and I'm so sorry. And I love you as a friend, and I wish we could see each other more often, but, you know, you live in Washington. Okay, let's move on, because I'm going to cry.
So I think it's, on my end, fair to say that I didn't really have a ton of crushes in college, outside of, like, relationships. Like, I had a few, one with a baseball player that wasn't really noteworthy. I mean, it was noteworthy drama between you and I. Well, not really between you and I, but involving you and I.
Involved both of us, yeah. I mean, we could just mention it, honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention. I had a crush on a...
Baseball mat, yeah. And one of Drea's friends in tennis, I think, had a thing for him as well. Oh, yeah, big time.
So she was trying to get in the middle of that, and then, not that I was actively doing anything, because I wasn't, like, that's not really me, but, so she was trying to sabotage it, and then Drea was just like, hey, Alex.
This is happening,
but don't say anything that you know about it, because I don't want her to know that I told you.
Well, I don't know that I said don't say anything about it, but I was like something like don't say anything that'll like let her know that I told you.
Yeah, which basically I can't say anything about it because how else would I know?
I suppose. But I mean, what else was I going to do? Like, was I just not going to tell you? I was never not going to tell you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I appreciate you telling me, but it was a really annoying situation. So at that moment onward, I'm like, I'm over it because I think it was affecting the way that he was
interacting with
me. Yeah, because we were friends. Like, I wasn't like actively trying to get at him or anything, but
he was cute. Well, yeah. I mean, anyways. Okay, so that was I think that mainly like covers like the significant crushes.
Yeah.
Right? So we can move into kind of more the relationship, the like boyfriends.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So I only want to talk about like the ones that have any sort of story that is interesting or significant. So I'll begin mainly with my boyfriend in high school, who his name is Kenny. I'll actually say his name. We're still friends. Yeah. And he commented like on our little Instagram.
Did he?
Yeah, I like posted, like next week we're talking about relationships, and he like commented, and he's just like, ooh, ex-boyfriends? And I'm just like, yes, Kenny.
Kenny's great. I love Kenny too. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But yeah, so like I'll talk about that relationship because that was kind of like the first good relationship I had, I suppose. yeah, like I said, we're still friends to this day, and it's all worked out fine. Like, you know, he was in my wedding. But at the time, it was really weird because the way that we got together was unconventional and, in a sense, not great on my part. Because what happened was my first boyfriend in high school, he introduced us to his friends. It was Tall Matt and then Kenny. And it was, I don't even know how to explain what happened, but like basically when I was dating this guy, when I was with him, it was kind of like a necessity that needed to happen after my boyfriend before that, who was incredibly, I don't want to say negative things here, but it was the worst experience of my entire life when I was with him.
Yeah.
So coming off of that, the only way I can like find some sort of avenue of getting out of that was like, I need to date someone else so that I have an excuse to not like be with this person. So I kind of like jumped ships with this other guy. So we didn't really have anything in common other than the fact that like he just found me attractive. So I was just like, fine, I'll be with you. And so in that process, he introduced us to his friends. And like I said, we really didn't have anything in common. And I feel so bad for basically using this guy. But I mean, in my situation, it just, I needed someone to be there as a buffer. And so during that process, I started getting to know Tall Matt, and we started to kind of like, this sounds terrible, but we kind of started having like a thing, nothing like physical or anything, but like we were just like talking. It was, in a sense, emotionally cheating, because I was checked out of that other relationship. I was never really in that other relationship. It was just a filler, kind of. It sounds terrible. Oh God, I sound terrible right now. I'm so sorry if you're out there. But yeah, so I started talking to his friend, Tall Matt, and in the process, Kenny started talking to my best friend at the time. And one thing led to another. I realized I wasn't really interested in Tall Matt. It was just a weird stint of time for me.
Yeah.
And also, my best friend got an offer from like a guy on the soccer team who was supposedly like real cute or something. And so she was like, bye, Kenny. And so me and Kenny were just like left. And in this process, I obviously broke up with the other guy. Yeah. And in this process, me and Kenny really kind of like left together as like the people outcasted. And so we were like, let's get together. And it worked out. We had a lot in common. We had a really good time. I kind of sabotaged all his friendships with those two prior people because I was kind of like that homewrecker in a sense, which ended up being fine because none of them really had like anything in common. And I don't know to this day why they were friends. It was like, and if you talk to Kenny also, he's just like, yeah, I don't know. Like it was weird.
Lols.
But so it wasn't really that bad in like the grand scheme of things, but it was a weird way to get together. Yeah, but we were together for 3-ish years, like 2.5, I think. And we spent like every single second together, like to the point where we isolated ourselves from everyone else on campus. And which became problematic because towards the end of our relationship, when I realized, this is probably not going to work, I like tried breaking up with him. And there was like a few months left of school. And in those like 2 days that we were broken up, it was so incredibly awkward because the like remaining people that we had as friends was all like, it was all mutual.
Yeah. So
how could two people who were like going through this like pretty intense breakup like be just normal around like the same group?
Yeah.
So it was super weird. It was super awkward. So I was just, oh my God, I'm really painting this terrible light of myself, which honestly, I'm self-aware now. As an adult, I'm self-aware. I was terrible and I regret all of my decisions. But like at the time, like I was a kid and I didn't know better. Yeah. So I was just like, it makes more sense for me to just get back with him, stay with him through school. We were about to graduate. And then afterwards, I could break up with him and it won't be awkward because we won't be seeing the same people every day. So the day after graduation, I broke up with him. And you know what? He saw it coming. Yeah. He had to have seen it coming. But I was terrible. And there was a good amount of time after we graduated to like, I think it honestly wasn't until like maybe junior year of college that we became friends again. Also had to do with he got in another relationship with a girl and she like hated me, and so like he wasn't allowed to talk to me. Yeah. So it was all a mess. But I'm very grateful that it all happened because now I have like this lifelong friend with my life.
So boyfriends beginning of college, I guess, because mine was also like kind of a carryover from high school.
Right.
Because I started dating this guy, I guess we'll call him High School Matt, but started dating this guy. His best friend was dating my best friend at the time.
Okay.
And this is where you met me. We were dating for like 2 years, and a lot of it was long distance, actually, because right after high school, because I started dating him my senior year of high school, I graduate, and then he moves to Oregon because of some family stuff. And thereafter, I'm like really salty that he's gone. And then he kept telling me that entire time, like, yeah, like I'm going to come back to California and all this whatever, because at that point we thought we were endgame and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like he was putting investment into this relationship. So he kept saying like early on that he was going to come back. And then at some point my sophomore year, he's just like, I don't know why you're saying that I'm going to come back. Like, you need to move up to Oregon.
Yikes. So he completely like 180'd on you.
Yes. And it was kind of like, I will not do that. That it's not, I mean, not that he was proposing that I do that like right then. I think he was thinking that I'd graduate from college first. But yeah, I'd have to move up to Oregon, which I'm just like, no, you know, my family's here, my life is here. I'm not going to move. And all in all, like, we didn't really have values that aligned anyway, which is really important to me.
Right.
And has always been really important to me. So, like, I really had no business being in that relationship from the beginning. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was a really nice guy. Like, I'll say that, like, you know, till I'm blue in the face. He was a really nice guy.
But it just wasn't the right relationship for you.
It was not.
As I understand.
Yes.
Okay. Well, kind of on my side, in the terms of, like, I thought it was endgame. When I was in college, and this is where our lives really start getting intertwined.
Yes.
We're going to call these two people that we're about to talk about joint Matt, because they jointly were united in some sense.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, so this guy that I was dating, my joint Matt, it was so interesting because he was exactly the type of person that I have never wanted to be with. Mm-hmm. He was like the homecoming king of his high school, the quarterback football player, like the super popular guy that everyone loved. Yeah. And like, that just wasn't the type of person that like I'm interested in, you know, like I'm like that nerdy kid in the corner of like the room that's like doodling, you know, kind of deal. It was a very like Breakfast Club situation with like the jock and like the weirdo or whatever, the freak or whatever her name is. It was very much that kind of situation. And I remember, and I didn't really talk about this prior, but I mean, I guess I kind of hinted on it with like the horrendous things I did in my past. But I kind of had this mentality when I was younger that I was invincible in a sense, like a superiority complex, not like in comparison to like people, but more in relationships. Like I felt like I had enough good qualities that whoever dated me would want to marry me kind of deal, which up to that point did prove to be true. Mm-hmm. So I had this high horse mentality that like made me, I don't know, like I was just like super jerky. Like, and also on top of that, I was living with undiagnosed PCOS. Mm-hmm. So my hormone levels were just like all sorts of like wacky, and which affected my mood. And when I was with this guy, I definitely treated him probably not ideally. Mm-hmm. And I was probably really like neurotic and crazy and just like, I don't blame him for wanting to end our relationship when he did. Mm-hmm. However, that being said, like, when our relationship did end, he basically told me, like, I never loved you, like, you know, like, our relationship, like, wasn't what you thought it was kind of deal. Like, when I think about my future, I don't see it with you. Like, we will never be back together. Mm-hmm. And although he was, entirely entitled to say that and to feel that way, especially I probably acted a certain crazy way. So I don't blame him in any sense. Mm-hmm. But hearing that when you think you're in a relationship that is going to be your forever relationship was the most horrendous experience of my entire life. I remember leaving that conversation where all this happened, because at the time I was living in San Diego, and I was driving by myself down to my house in San Diego, And I remember having the most dark thoughts, like, go across my mind. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, like, I'm talking, like, bad. Mm-hmm. And it was really scary to me because I'd never thought that way. I've never felt that way. Like, it was this experience that I do not wish on anyone. Mm-hmm. Like, as much as I hated it at the time, as much as I had a lot of resentment towards him for the longest time, obviously that was a while back. But, like, even during that time, I would never wish that on him.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like that was real because up until that point, I thought, like, you know, like, I had heartbreak. You know, we went through breakups. Like, I felt like, I know what it is. But it wasn't until that experience that I really knew what it was.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds... And you guys had went through some stuff together, too.
Yeah, and that was another thing
It just deepens the bond. So, yeah. I mean, it's understandable that you would feel that way at the other end.
Yeah. Going to Alex's point, during our relationship is when I found out that my mom had breast cancer. And he was kind of like that support system that, and maybe honestly, maybe he was with me for that long because he felt like he couldn't like break up with a girl whose mom just had like cancer. Yeah. I don't know what it was. But regardless, you know, he was my support system in that time. And so I feel like to your point, when you go through something traumatic with someone, it kind of intensifies like that bond.
Yeah, for sure. It does.
So it was the worst experience of my life, but I'm so happy it happened because from that, I really got like reality checked. Mm-hmm. And now today, I have a very healthy relationship with my husband, and every relationship after that has been like very mature, very adult, very healthy because, you know, like I was just like, okay, like what am I doing? Mm-hmm. I'm playing all these games. Like I need to not be a child and like be an adult about this. And also, you know, I got like diagnosed for PCOS and like they fixed my hormone levels and whatever. That's beside the point. Mm-hmm. But it was something that really needed to happen because now it was like what set my life up for where it is now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely glad for you that that happened because, you know I love your husband.
Yeah.
Aaron's the greatest. He's my favorite.
We're married. Yes. He's the best.
But anyway, so my part of this is she set me up with one of her joint mat's friends. So my joint mat is one of her ex-boyfriend's friends. She had told me to come to one of their softball games because they played like, you know, some rec league softball stuff because they were both football players. So between season, like they do other things. Mm-hmm. So Drea had told me to go to one of their games because he was going to meet me. Mm-hmm. And I was under the impression that he knew he was going to meet me, which was not at all true, by the way, because, like, the game finishes, like, I, like, am with you in the stands, and then, like, we go up to them, and you introduce me. Mm-hmm. He says hi, and then he just is on his phone going somewhere else. He pieces out. And I'm turning to you, I'm just kind of like, why am I here? Why did you bring me here? Because I think it was a Sunday, too. So, like, I'm pretty busy historically on Sundays. I'm just like, what is this?
It was a mistake on my end because I wanted it to happen organically. So I didn't want, like, him to know that I was bringing this suitor for him to meet. Yeah. So I just figured that, like, I'll just introduce them casually after the game, and then we'll just, like, get into conversation. But his dumb mentality was just like, oh, hey, bye, you know, kind of deal. Because he was just like, why am I being introduced to this person? Yeah.
So thereafter, they went to Lordsburg, this bar down the street from our school, and she let him have it, basically.
Oh, yeah. I chewed him out. I was like, how dare you? And I basically told him that, like, the person that I was trying to introduce him to was a person who's interested in him. And immediately after I said that, like, he was mortified. Like, he was just like, are you kidding me? Like, why didn't you tell me this? Like, you know, kind of deal. Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily that, like, he was ignoring her because he wasn't interested. He just was completely blindsided by the fact that it could possibly be, like, something.
And at that point, I wasn't looking for anything serious. It was, like, my one attempt at actually, like, trying to do a casual relationship, which did not work it out at all because we ended up in a relationship for, like, a year and a half. Yeah. So, like, the last part of our junior year and our entire senior year. And then I broke up with him shortly after we graduated from college because I was just going through some things at the time. Like, it's when my grandparents started getting sick. And, like, I
mentally not in a position to be in a relationship.
Well, that, and then it really reminded me about how much I just needed a support system that like aligned with my values. Because at the same time, him and I didn't have the same stance on a lot of things that were important to me. And so, yeah, at that point, I was kind of like, I can't do this anymore. I need to break up with him. But he was the sweetest. He was really a good guy. He was good for me at that point in time. Like, his family's great. Mm-hmm. You know, I haven't really spoken to him since. Mm-hmm. But
it's kind of hard. Like, I feel like it's hard to be friends after a relationship.
Yeah. And he had kind of said, like, well, we had agreed to be friends thereafter, but we didn't. Yeah. I mean, we had talked, like, a little bit, but never in person.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to be friends after a breakup.
But yeah. And then that brings us to
present day, yeah.
I mean, I do a little bit of online dating because, you know, that's what you do now.
Yeah, I mean, especially with your schedule, like working such weird hours, like where are you going to find people?
So yeah, you know, now Drea's married and I'm just dating.
Yeah, which I think that at this point, we're both in like healthy places. Mm-hmm. I think that along the line, you know, there's definitely been periods of our life where, you know, like I said, like when I was going through heartbreak, when you were going through heartbreak, like that it seems insurmountable to get past that. But now after all these experiences, I feel like it's really developed like this very healthy mindset in both of us.
That's for sure. I mean, because like now I can think back of all the stuff that, you know, I went through and just kind of like, it's so important to me now to find someone who has the same values that I do. Yeah. Like, I don't want to mess around with anything else. Like, I don't have the time. I don't have the patience to, like, really invest into anyone who's not worth my time.
Yeah, which makes sense, honestly. Like, why, you know, if it's not going to work out in the long run, like, why really commit to it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm happy with where I am now. Like, I have so much love in my life right now with friends and with family. So I'm just kind of like, you know, anything
additional
needs to be worth it to distract from, you know, all the stuff I have going on.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a really good mindset to have. And I know, like, as we mentioned prior, you know, it's just like, I have this undying need to set Alex up. Yes. So, so who knows what will become of that in the future. But, yeah, we're both in this place where, you know, like, we're both happy. It's all good. So in spite of all the negative that we've experienced and all the negative that we've put out into the world, we have become half-functioning adults.
Yes. I mean, definitely. Because, like, I was explaining this scenario to my mom this morning because recently I got ghosted. Mm-hmm. So I was saying that to her, and she has no idea what this means. So anyone who's, you know, not, I guess, a millennial or a kid, what ghosting is the new way you can, like, not, I guess, break up with someone, but, like, get someone out of your life that you're dating. Because now all of it's so much over technology. So, like, you're dating someone, and if you want to ghost them, you just stop. Yeah, you just cut off all communication with them. Mm-hmm. And then you just effectively ghost out of their life. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, that really shows how far I've come, I guess, as a person. Because, you know, my whole thing is, like, I really appreciate honesty. Mm-hmm. And I'm just kind of like, if you're not into something, then just say it. Right. Which is, like, so much of a different experience for me. Because, like, I've always been a text dumper, which I don't think I would be anymore. Yeah. And, you know, like, that just shows, like, you know, growth.
Absolutely. And you need to go through those experiences where you realize, like, okay, maybe this isn't the best way to go about breaking up with someone.
For sure.
So, it's all a learning experience. Our whole lives and relationships is all part of just learning how to effectively handle socialize. Conflict, really. Yes, absolutely. Conflict resolution.
Yeah, it was really funny explaining that to my mom this morning. She's like, what is ghosting?
No, excuse me? That's funny. Yeah. But, okay, well, I think that's pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, I hope that was half entertaining, half enlightening.
I hope that we don't have to record this again.
Oh, gosh. Please. No. Okay.
The fourth time, we just can't do it. Just give up at that point.
All right, but that's been this week's podcast. If you'd like to continue listening. Please stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram at TRUUU Podcast with 3 U's. We do tease the next week's episode on there. Mm-hmm. So maybe check that out or watch the podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. See you guys later.